Does anyone else like a nice, deep desert? Just sand dunes as far as the eye can see. Kind of peaceful. What's not peaceful is Arrakis, and we've got a bit of a battle on our hands already here. We are in a casted game. We're joining it a little late. We are already 16 days into month 2, but I saw it go up, and I saw some interesting characters in it, and I thought it might be a fun one to cast. So here we are. We've got Beachcat over on House Corrino, the mighty Kenry himself over on the Atreides, Count Jacula on Ecaz. Got a little bit of aggression already starting off here. And Minxie down on the Vernii, the House Vernius. It looks like we've already got mighty Kenry, can't give up his pillaging ways, is liberating some land from Count Jacula here, right in the middle. Like I said, we're joining late, so we're going to try and catch up to speed, but I figure, maybe it'll get us right into the real good stuff a bit faster. Maybe a bit of a shorter, maybe a bit more of a bite-sized video. Shouldn't be more than an hour and a half. Get you in and out of here. Quick lickety-split. Let's see what we got here. So we've got Kenry, looks like he's on Dr. Yui and Paul Atreides. It's like a nice Atreides spot. He's got two pretty good sieges right by him. A third siege over here if he ends up that a ways. And we will see where others are as they get revealed. But 2 sieges at least is enough. Young Paul, of course, produces 2 authority per allied siege. So that's always a pretty big one here. And we see him trading with both of these. So it shouldn't be long before he at least has this one up. He's trading for some knowledge, and it's going to give him a little rebate for any time military units die within the Atreides territory. That's sometimes pretty decent if you're on the defensive with the Atreides. Can be a big income boost. It doesn't look like our boy Jacula here has much in the way of an army. They must have gotten cleaned up by the Atreides. There is the Liberate, and I gotta say I'm not shocked to see it. The far westward placement of this village, basically adjacent to 2 other very close Atreides villages, means that is just not gonna stand. This also could become an absolutely unholy, unbreakable bunker as you put turrets here and turrets here and turrets here. All these villages could defend one another. That's going to be real tough to do anything about. Let's do our usual where we pop in and look at the terrain everyone's got. Let's start with the Atreides over here to the west. And I'm not stalking Kenry or anything. I'm not trying to cast Kenry games. He just plays a lot of Spice Wars and hangs around the places that I hang around, so we run into a lot of Kenry games. We see he's got himself an Imperial Basin pretty close. He's got a great volcano nearby. Up north, already grabbed by the Ecaz, is a sandfall, but I would say maybe it's a bit vulnerable. I wonder if you can climb up the back here. Maybe that's a walkway. Otherwise, if you got to walk through the deep desert to get to it, then Mr. Sandfall here is very well defended. So and a white rift just to his west. Oh, those are pretty solid specials, actually. Top tier specials across the board. Great Volcano and White Rift are, A tier, S tier. Imperial Basin's fine. Extra Recruitment Office is nice enough. Not super important, but really good ones to have nearby. So pretty solid starting spot for the Atreides. Already on 1 spice, 2 spice. Looks like easy 3 spice, probably 4 spice. Very strong starting spot. Strong territory for Kenry, yet again on the Atreides. We expect him to be a monster, the man to watch for this game, yet again. If we rotate Count Jacula up on the Ecaz with Mesa and Ebo Vip, probably the meta picks for Ecaz counselors these days. Has very quickly snapped up Sandfall, which is a great special region, pays out a lot of knowledge. We have a very nearby shield wall, which is not a great one, but it's special enough in itself. And we have a very nearby worm nest, which is very nice to have. So I would say easy 3 special, that's pretty good, but 2 very big deep deserts kind of hemming hemming him in here, so he might find it difficult to expand. We do have 1 sanctuary on, 2 sanctuary online already. If he takes this would be an easy 3rd sanctuary right here. And then we could maybe see him expanding to the east toward Corrino, but pretty solid all in all. Landsrad's coming up, but we're going to ignore it. Water subsidies might be interesting, but the others we don't particularly care about. Have we got any good quirks in the Ecaz territory? Oh, we do. We've got bartering customs here, which is always important because it's +3 Solari production per economy building. It's getting multiplied by 3. What he wants to do is break this down and fill this up with econ masterpieces, right? Each econ masterpiece right now would pay out 18 Solari and cost nothing for upkeep. You could build 5 of them here. 5 times 18, almost 100 Solari, just shy of it. That would be pretty economically viable there. Pretty solid. Down here, nothing exciting for quirks. He does have statecraft boost down on this one, so that's always that would be nice as well. Extra resource production, and then up here, extra resources. So some pretty decent quirks to work with here. 1 spice, 2 spice, and 3 the worm nest spice. So he should be just fine on money. Count Jacula looks like he's got some very quality territory to work with, but there's just not a lot of it. So I'm worried he might get a little bit hemmed in. Looks like Vernius has all the territory to work with, which Minxie will be plenty happy to take full advantage of that. But before we get there, let's go take a look at Beachcat over on Shaddam. Padshah Emperor Shaddam IV, as it were. The House Corrino, Roland, Hasimir Fenring, and Princess Urulon, pretty standard, really. I'm guessing that our water subsidies passed because he has beelined over to claim the Polar Sink, and it is a very favorable village placement. So it looks like that Corrino are going to get their hands on that for free. Not too bad. Corrino has a hard time expanding because they don't really... It gets very expensive to expand further away from their imperial bases. But if they get it for free, then that sort of helps quite a bit. Agent recruitment speed and a little bit of extra Solari production on the sink, and of course they'll be able to make some extra water out of it, and it's a special region. I don't think they're going to be able to contest this worm nest, because just look at this long worm-infested desert, and then way up by Ecaz territory is the village, so that looks definitely like an Ecaz territory there. What has he got to work with? He's grabbed a spice, he's grabbed some rare elements, he's grabbed some energy sources and some minerals, just grabbing sort of the trifecta of early game useful resources. What else does he have to work with? He's grabbed another spice field down south, so 1 spice, 2 spice, but probably just the 2 spice for our Corrino friends. How about special regions? It's pretty thin. This is probably an Ecaz special up in the shield wall. He does have the Polar Sink, and there is a Well of Riches over here, which would be very nice, but it is a Vernius favored village there. Oh, it's tough. It's tough. I almost feel like maybe you drop a base over here to secure both of these specials, but that is asking for trouble from Vernius. Way down south, we do have a Crescent Ridge, which is honestly a pretty shitty special region, but a special region is better than no special region. Not a lot to work with. I think Corrino's going to have a hard time on the hedge game. They would have loved to have the White Rift, but that is pretty well out of their reach as the Atreides march on it as we speak. About to be in green hands, I think, here. Not the greatest map position for Corrino. It'll be interesting to see where they choose to drop their second base. If I was looking at this map, I'd be pretty unhappy with it, and I don't know where I would drop. Honestly, the first thing I see is like this spot here would be very interesting as a way to secure the Well of Riches, and this would sort of protect your whole middle area from Vernius at least. But a super aggressive forward Corrino base is asking for trouble. Oh, we've got Atreides on Vernius. Coming in, pillaging. We've got a liberate and a pillage going down. No manpower to fill out these the militia of these bases. We have a small Vernius force here. Might be able to stop the pillage, but we'll probably not be able to contest the liberate there. Kenry not making any friends. Did manage an annex to the west. Was this a peaceful annex? Snagging that spice field away. Very aggressive land grabs from the Atreides here. He plays as Atreides like he's a Fremen, which is not surprising from the Fremen main. He's marching over to see if he can contest this. Poor Vernius has not even been able to kill the single trooper. Of course, a trooper has a ton of base armor, and Suboids are basically impotent against any kind of armor. There are fight engineers from Minx and a Fremen mercenary, but with the lack of a railgun or anything like that, they're going to have a real hard time getting through any armor. Atreides do finish the pillage there. They are going to finish the liberate there, and and another pillage down here. What a villain! Not a lot the Vernius can do about it currently. Kater is out, and an extra fight engineer. 3 fight engineers is too many. Minx, what are you doing? Minx is a very capable, very talented Vernius player. Maybe trying some new stuff here. Kater, of course, will stealth any nearby human units. So you can see as Kater arrives, the whole army gets stealthed here. So we've got stealthed fight engineers, but it's not really going to help. Fight engineers not really notable for their fighting, more notable for their engineering. And there's nothing to engineer here. You've got no drones yet. How close are we to automated defenses? It is currently under research, 5 days left. So if automated defensive had been up, maybe 10 days earlier, a lot of this trouble could have been avoided. But it seems like we have Minx has a very aggressive Fremen neighbor in Kenry here. Not a Fremen, an Atreides neighbor. Might as well be Fremen at this point. And also this is another siege here, so even more for young Paul. No wonder Kenry grabbed this far out base down here. The bonus of having an extra siege pays out huge dividends. I mean, producing +2 authority is a huge boost in income, and we got more combat coming in. Atreides coming for blood. Looks like there was maybe a building up there they're going to smash first. Agenda contracts, water sellers union, economic investigations. Honestly, we don't care that much about those. Atreides are smashing a neural node that was right here. Automated defenses is not up for 2 more days. This is the region that just got pillaged. Actually, cannot be targeted by an attack. So there's not really anything that Atreides can do here other than destroy buildings. They could come and try and kill this army, but they can't see this army right now. This is invisible. They're all stealthed here. In addition, there's a whole sandstorm over the entire region. Nobody can see anything. Wild times down here in southern Arrakis. Water Sellers Union for House Corrino, who has gone into +400 votes. They must have. Oh, look at this! They're going deep into the statecraft. Vernius pulls their army back. Atreides finish chopping up that neural node, but they can't do anything to this region because they pillaged it. So they are fallen back. Vernius fallen back as well. Corrino does grab their well of riches here. They're going to need control of that to have any sort of relevance in the hedge game, I think. Let's examine our friends the Vernius here. Minx, great player. Minxie, great player. Having a hard time with this one due to some overtly aggressive Atreides play, which I love. You see a lot of Atreides played very peacefully often, but Atreides units are slapping powerful, especially even early in the game, right? Troopers are great units, Rangers are great units, heavy weapon squads are great units, and so are Wardens. Turns out all the Atreides units, great units. Early in the game, you can build quite an army with them. And we see the dominance of the Atreides military right now. 57 command points, 30 on Corrino, 34 on the Ecaz, 28 for Vernius. Anyone buying Chome? 10% on Corrino. They start with 5%, so they've bought themselves a little bit. Atreides have picked up 6%, 2% on Ecaz, and 3% on Vernius. More Atreides spreading out into Vernius lands. However, we do now have the neural nodes, the automated defenses, starting to defend a bit. And we see even Duncan out front is taking pretty heavy damage from this neural node bunker here. Vernius going in to contest him. Duncan gets berserked and has 15 armor in his berserk rage. Going to be a bit hard to take him down. However, good targeting. The Suboids get on the very low armor weapon squads and rangers, trying to clean those up. We even have a spirit, a couple of spirits of the Vernius gunships. You don't see them too often here. We've got, it looks like they are attempting a pillage here. The Vernius army is mostly cleaned up. However, we do have the spirits shooting, picking off Duncan here, who is stuck in his rage, just kind of glaring. Now moving into this next village here. Is Duncan gonna die? He's quite low, and there are 2 automated militia and a turret here blasting away at him. The neural nodes turning into turrets. Ooh, so that pillage is going off. I don't know. And there's still enough heavy weapon squads to chase away these spirits. I think you might be able to pick up that guy. Another pillage going down. A leave order pops in here. Affects Corrino, Ecaz, and Vernius. So Atreides must have been sitting on a leave order. Okay, the spirits come back in here. They clean up one of the ranged units. There's still still 2 rangers and a heavy weapon squad, which ought to be enough to zone out these spirits. And we do have the Imperial base drop exactly where I was talking about. This front range here takes advantage of the Vernius weakness of getting absolutely bullied by the Atreides, secures some very choice territory. Oh, I was actually thinking he would drop up here, but he did an even more aggressive drop. This one's actually adjacent to the Vernius base. Ooh, I mean, ooh, that's a blood feuding at best, but is there conflict between Vernius and Corrino? There is conflict. Potential siege situation here. If Corrino wants to take advantage of a beleaguered Vernius, they could lay siege to the S-Vault. If you get the kill, boom, you've got a 3rd Imperial base to drop, and you're looking really, really good all of a sudden. I like that aggressive Corrino play. I would like to see maybe the Ecaz picking at the edges of this Atreides empire while the Atreides army is busy down south. But it looks like just poor Minxie just taking it on the chin from her aggressive neighbors here. Really, really going to be a difficult spot for Vernius to come through here. Been heavily pillaged. The resources are going to be tight. She's actually sitting on a pretty decent bank of Solari, making a fair bit. She's pulling in a lot of spice. 1 spice, 2 spice, 3 spice harvesters, at least, for Vernius. And the spice rate is a banging 2.4 currently, so she is converting that to a huge amount of money. Plus 679 a day, more than the rest of the lobby combined. She's going to need it, because you need a whole lot of Solari to build your drones up. And you're going to need some drones to fight here. Indeed, we see the fighting mechs in production. Vernius playing with Kamar Pilru, providing extra influence and big boosts of influence in Landsred standing when people fight you, which is something to work with. We see Vernius sitting on quite a lot of influence since everybody's been picking on her. We also have Bronzo, which helps with the cheaper annexation on the further away that you get from with your purple lines. We do have 1 special here, a space wreck very close by. That's a nice pickup. Acid Lakes is pretty solid. Already grabbed Mundu Vale to the west. So 3 very easy specials. Probably could even adventure to the east and pick up the Crescent Ridge if she really wanted to. Pretty solid terrain to work with for Vernius, but she's got to deal with all of these neighborhood bullies. And indeed, we see a fairly chunky Corrino army Looks like we got some Laza Tigers in there. That can mean only one thing. When Sissia... The tigers are beautiful, Father. Big, chunky force. Are they jumping on Vernius? What are they doing? They're just like prowling the desert right now. Just prowling the desert. We'll see where Beach Cat goes with that. We'll see what Minxie is able to do to rebuild her defenses. See if she can hold things off. We do see Triple Blue picked up for House Vernius, 250 base votes. Triple Blue districts picked up for House Ecaz. Of course, when I say Triple Blue, what I mean is they've built 3 blue buildings in their 3-spot, their districts of their main base, giving them the Political Forum district bonus, which is plus 150 votes in the Landsrad. House Corrino has extra all the way up to 400 because they have a special Emperor's Monument to double the district bonuses, so they have plus 150 votes times 2, giving them a whole lot of votes to work with. Tax negotiations with the smuggler bounty on House Corrino, that's pretty nice for them. Speaker of the Council has failed. Landsrad investigation has failed, and everybody put all their votes here into the tax negotiation to get some of that sweet, sweet smuggler bounty. 10 Solari per every vote. And Corrino won't mind that at all. They'll get paid out for their votes, and they'll get minus 50% Solari upkeep. Win-win for them. They are marching up north. We did just have a Renegade base come down. I don't know if they were coming up to claim the basin themselves, or if they're coming up to claim the Renegade base themselves. But either way, they're getting the Renegade base. You'd really like to see a Scav teams dropped, because there's a lot of combat going on here. Scav teams pays out some pretty good money when you're chopping up a Renegade base. But regardless, getting rid of a Renegade base pays out some money, pays out some pretty decent... Spacing Guild favor, maybe even something else. We could take a look at it once they finish it. It might show us. We've got some army starting to come back online for Vernius here. Atreides have marched back up north. Okay, here's the Renegade base cleared out, and it didn't show me any pop-ups of what they got for it, so I don't know. Have we got any conflict between anyone else? Yes. Conflict between Corrino and everyone. And it looks like the Atreides are coming to try to catch them, but I think Corrino will be able to get back to the safety of their base. Atreides are not going to get there in time. We do have the Ecaz here as well. I wonder if... Looks like the Ecaz are moving in. The lobby is not appreciating this very aggressive Corrino play. I loved it. I think this was a really cool spot. Airfield here, he's flying up to defend. He's going to engage with the Corrino or the Ecaz force here. However, he landed safely in the backfield. He could have opted to just drop right on top of him, which I think would have been pretty viable there, but instead opted to just spook them away. Of course, Princess Erlan allows them to make 2 water extractors, so they're pulling 54 water out of the sink. That's pretty bananas. Water extractors, oh, I thought they were expensive. They're only 5 upkeep. That's a hell of a deal. Hell of a deal here. We see Corrino currently sitting on a flat 50 water. They could wander the desert for quite some time and be very comfortable doing so. However, we see all 4 armies relatively close to one another. The Atreides certainly don't like them. The Ecaz certainly don't like them. Vernius can't really do anything about it, but I'm sure that everyone are discussing ways to go blow up this aggressive Imperial base, and we see the red districts being made. Corrino opting to engage in the desert here. This is bold. We did have a decoy thumper down nearby, so not in this region. We're fighting. It's looking pretty good. Oh, the supply situation. Maybe that's why he chose to engage. There's no supplies for the Atreides. All that water for the Corrino forces, they can stand in the desert as long as they want. The Atreides are all dying to thirst. There was not a supply drop ready. Oh, devastating. The Atreides army dying of thirst are all going to go down without doing any meaningful damage to Corrino. Ecaz marches over and engages, but are now caught in a bit of an awkward position as missile turrets back from the Polar Sync fire on them. And they get picked apart, actually. The front part of the Ecaz army gets cleaned up by the Corrino army. The back part gets caught up trying to blow up some airfields and clean up some of the defenses here. And Corrino has managed to hold really, really well. Credit to Beachcat, that was solid. Though, I will say it's sort of on the back of a blunder from Kenry. Those Atreides marched way deep out in the desert and did not have themselves a supply drop ready. Likewise, we see supplies starting to hurt the Ecaz army here, and they are getting cleaned up on the retreat. Corrino army could, like we said, run through the desert all day. They don't need any supplies, not with that vast water stockpile they have. Starting some pillaging. Vernius still rebuilding down here, and the only thing they can reasonably get to is the base, which they're not at all prepared to handle. So Corrino in a really nice spot here to throw some military weight around. We see the Whitmore escapes for the Ecaz, so that's something, at least. However, all of his merry men were killed. Whitmore's sitting on 4 champions trophies, but whatever champions he had did not survive the desert retreat there. Ooh, what a nice pickup for Corrino. Looks like Atreides struggling to rebuild their force. Basically no manpower for them. Basically no manpower for anybody. We're seeing very light manpower totals across the board, but that is good for Corrino, who still has a standing army, and Vernius, who doesn't necessarily need the manpower to actually make an army. We're seeing Vernius head to the east. They are trying to get their hands on the Crescent Ridge. This is a very smart pickup for them. It'll work very easily. They can bounce their purple lines through the deep desert over here. The sooner they grab this and get this a bit fortified, the sooner they keep it out of the clutches of these foul Imperials. Corrino didn't hear no bell, continuing to go on, pillaging more Ecaz territory. Very little that Ecaz can do about this for a long, long time. He's fortunate that this isn't all getting liberated, because Corrino can continue and take this spice field as well. He could burn down basically anything to the ground that he wants. And there is not a force that could stop the Corrino army right now. Corrino, if he's making enemies, he might as well be, throwing knockout blows here. There's the annex going down for Vernius. We've got the Atreides take the opportunity to go and pillage a Vernius base over here, but simultaneously local raiders come out that are maybe going to be able to actually beat the Atreides pillaging force, which is very funny, because the raiders were coming to pillage the Vernius lands, and they got there, and they were already being pillaged by the Atreides. They said, hey, we're here to pillage. You can't pillage what we're rightfully trying to pillage. It's great. I love it. What a game. What a game. Imperial propaganda up. Eye of the Council and gear regs. House Corrino wisely says they don't want to be the punching bag of the lobby, so they change the scope to affect all factions for gear regs. I have the Council up, which is most likely Vernius has the most votes to go around, but only ever so slightly more than Ecaz or Corrino, so it really is very tightly contested. Imperial propaganda would be good for everybody. Everybody's got stuff they would like to be annexing at this point in time. Ecaz opts to pick up the extra authority. Corrino lays claim to the Eye of the Council. Vernius threw a few votes in for themselves, but chose not to spend the whole bank on it, and thus didn't get it. And Ecaz free votes actually lowered everybody's power a bit. Very interesting. Are the raiders going to be able to defend the Vernius lands? I think they, well, no. Okay, we got a raider. Yeah, they might. The raiders being in this siege circle are delaying it, and they are going to clean up the heavy weapon squad. I think they're going to start pillaging this afterwards, but they're buying time. Oh, and we do have cheeky Vernius coming over here to pillage this. If they had the freedom, they could have really burned down this Spacing Guild branch as well, which would have been a nice poke in the eye for Corrino. Atreides coming back to try to finish up their pillage here. Looks like their one heavy weapon squad survived by kiting out into the desert, but he's about to run out of supplies, actually. He's got to be very careful. And we see the Corrino army moving in to lay siege to the S-Vault, but Vernius has about a full stack here. 65 CP to only 60 CP of Corrino. So I would expect a strong defense here. However, we do have the Kronos online. Anytime that there is a major airship, and Corrino sees the writing on the wall and is falling back. But anytime there's a major airship, a flagship for a race, the main base's missile turrets always target the flagship first before going back and targeting the ground forces. So having a flagship there kind of tanks for the main missile batteries, allowing you a lot more flexibility for your ground forces not to have to worry about getting pounded there. But credit to Minxie, and managed to rebuild her army and rebuff the Corrino invasion there. If she was down low to 40 command points of troops there, she probably gets wiped and maybe just gets killed, unless there's some very savvy anti-siege work put in. But for now, Corrino chastened and falls back to their frontline Imperial base here. Still more red districts coming online. And this is such aggro play. I would expect this base. And we do have Vernius looking to poke a bit at Corrino themselves, but probably not exactly the way to do it. They're trying to keep she's trying to keep her fight engineers here on the border able to heal, and then poking in with the railguns, but they just take too much damage from this base. Railguns are quite fragile. 384 hit points, 1 armor. They don't want to be taking hits, even though they're getting well repaired. Once the Imperial base just dropping bombs on them, and we see conscripts coming out, and when Sissia coming out as well. They pick off 1 drone, and some border scuffles, some skirmishes along the contested Corrino-Vernius border here. Ecaz ever so slowly rebuilding their army, up to 26 command points, up to 49 on the Atreides, ever so slowly rebuilding their army, getting into big fights without having big manpower stockpiles does sometimes set you back like that. Continuing to see some border conflict, we do have the folder relay online for Vernius now. Beachcat's gone for a very heavy Sardaukar army, so is having a little bit of a hard time picking this off as much as they want, but he's defending all right here. Now the artillery drone comes up, the great drone equalizer. Artillery drones are incredible, but starting to blast away at some of the infrastructure over there. A vulnerability as well. Vernius has access to the hidden backdoor stratagem. Enemy mechanical units cannot be controlled and attack their allies. So if you've got enough intel to work with and you're prepared for it, you can sabotage the artillery drones and make them shoot at their own friends, which is no bueno for Corrino when you invest a lot of your command points into artillery. But just the presence of an artillery drone here makes any kind of poking along the border much less reasonable for Vernius, much less of a value proposition. Artillery drones have a big ol' 43 power attack blast, a very slow attack, but a big one. Ecaz up here doing some expansion. Was this taken from the Atreides? I can't quite tell, or did they just snap it up when it was empty? Hard to say. Atreides finally getting around to annexing the thing that they liberated from the Ecaz long ago. We're seeing solid borders between the factions, though this one looks like maybe a bridge too far here. We'll see if the Ecaz are able to hold it. what does diplomacy look like between these factions? Non-aggression pact and trade agreement between the Atreides and the Ecaz currently. Ecaz, non-aggression with Vernius, and Atreides and Vernius now have the full suite, non-aggression, research, trade agreement, and political agreement. So no more pillaging in the back lines from the Atreides. Vernius has bigger fish to fry at the moment. As the standoff on the border continues, and I can't imagine what would shake this free. This would be a real tough place to push into for Corrino, principally because of the automated defenses making your neural nodes into missiles. So look, we've got missile battery, neural node, missile battery. So trying to push into either this village or either this village puts you under fire from 4 missile turrets effectively. And the entire Vernius army is sitting on top of it as well. So it's not something Corrino can just march over and win the fight for, at. And without Atreides poking in the backfield, there's no reason for Vernius to really lose their army or get pulled out of position. Sort of a difficult spot for Corrino to be in because Corrino's backfield is vulnerable. Imperial intelligence pops cannot be targeted by new infiltration cells. Now that means that infiltration cells are already out on the map. Are someone setting up infiltration cells for a prospective assassination? Judge of the Council is also online. Smugglers putting their fingers on the scale. No smugglers in the game, just randomly these things appear sometimes. Smugglers putting their fingers on the scale for House Atreides, who would not mind being Judge of the Council at all. And they win it with a resounding 2,000 votes, as everybody once again takes advantage of that smuggler bounty to pad their bank accounts. So Corrino's problem is he's still a little vulnerable here. In some of his back regions, like he might need to move his army to defend other parts of his territory from maybe, I don't know, marauding Atreides and or Ecaz. And then that leaves this base here quite vulnerable to a Vernius incursion. Vernius is actually quite good at taking down a base because they can attack it whilst under the restorative aura of these fight engineers. As long as they spread out, these railguns can just blast away at it. Railguns do quite good. Some sort of slow attack speed, very high power. So they're almost little mini siege tanks in and of themselves. Getting healed up by the fight engineers. Now she's going to need some supply drops here because these guys are all running low on supplies. They're getting thirsty working out in the desert. Fallen back, but they did manage to put a couple thousand damage of health on the Imperial base. And you could easily see how they could burn through that if given a little bit of time. If Ecaz starts pushing or Atreides starts pushing at some of this northern Corrino territory, Vernius is going to be waiting here, just drooling for an opportunity to come in and punish this base. We do see the Emperor's... we do see an assassination kicked off. We'll talk about that in 1 second. The Emperor's monument getting moved over from the main base to the red base. This is the double their districts, so they've got a tier 3 and a tier 2 bonus for their military, and they're gonna double those. So not plus 20%, but plus 40% health for military units. Not plus 1 armor, plus 2 armor for all military units. Very strong. Very strong. It really makes the Corrino army quite powerful. And then, of course, we've got the assassination underway. Ooh, and there are no agents on counterintelligence for Ecaz. That is very, very bad. That means Corrino doesn't have to do anything in order to progress this assassination. You can see the progression factor here sitting at a ripe 100%. Corrino does not have to make assassins and send them into cells because without any counterintelligence, there's no one stopping this assassination. Where are our cells? One up here in Aishras. One... Do I see you? One way to the west in Runsan. Just the 2 cells, I think. But we do have the Atreides have come over and are going to help out Vernius try and kill this base. Corrino splits their army to try and defend their backfield. We see the orbital strikes coming in. It's very solid orbital strikes. Looks like the assassination got canceled. Maybe they just don't want to deal with it, or they don't want to spend the extra intel and money on it right now. Atreides taking some bad hits here. Corrino looking very strong on the defense. They need these other troops back. Fly those guys back home. Atreides in big trouble. Corrino, for the most part, doing okay. Starting to get a bit picked apart now. Sissia gets picked up in the back. But now Atreides are suddenly looking good. They managed to drop a supply drop, get some support in, and they are doing a little bit of cleanup here. The orbital strike still reaping a bloody toll. We don't have any units in production. Corrino needs to be immediately, you want to be making new units. It looks like the orbital strike alone managed to cause enough trouble that they've chased off the armies. Just Duncan the Berserker left here, wandering across the desert. Vernius falls back. Atreides falls back, mighty far from home. But the Corrino army is wiped. The attackers just felt like they lost too much to really commit to a proper siege there. Atreides are far from home. They must have a lot of water to be able to do what they're doing. 23 water, they're just taking advantage of supply drops. Ecaz, meanwhile, pushing forward a little bit, grabbing some of the more neutral territory between them and Corrino. I like to see that. The Ecaz territory is tough. They are rather tightly packed back there, and Corrino is in no position whatsoever to contest any of this. And it's going to get a little more rough for them as the Ecaz march further and further south, picking up what they want along the way. We do see the Atreides cresting 20k on the hedge. Is anyone cooking? Yes. 29 daily hedge for the Atreides, 12 for Corrino, 31 for the Ecaz. Now, Minxie's not going to love any of that. She is, however, committing back to the Railgun siege once more. Do we have Corrino forces? Yep, finally we got some Corrino forces in. A handful of conscripts already recreated. 1 siege tank here to help out with the defense. That will be pretty good. But it's not quite enough to get the kills here. There's some careful juggling going on. Minxie's moving units around to adjust the aggro from the Imperial base, because if it shot at the same units too many times, it would get a kill on them. So she needs to be very careful to make sure that the base's missile turrets here are bouncing between different units that are all being healed by these fight engineers in the back as well. The Imperials actually, I don't think he quite knows it, but Beachcat could even defend this if he just had a thumper. You drop a decoy thumper here and it calls a worm over to eat these fight engineers. And in order for the fight engineers to be close enough to heal these units, they've got to be out on the sand here. Otherwise, it's a much longer walk back and forth for these railguns to try to do this sort of siege juggling thing here. We've got to pause as players work through something. Very interesting game so far. I'm glad we casted it. This one's been a banger so far. House Vernius up to 17%. Minxie making some bank here. 207 spice daily. 134 daily for Ecaz, 87 for Atreides, only 80 for Corrino. So just big spice numbers for Vernius. And the rate's been very generous. It's 2.3 now. It's going up to 2.5. Good God, that's some money. So Minxie just making a lot of money with the territory she has. Not a lot of hedge right now. She does have valuable trinkets up. Let's quick check through the tech. We've got some deep blue tech for the Atreides, even up to spying mastery and things there too. We've got not deep blue for the Ecaz, so they don't look like they're prioritizing any kind of, just sort of some general economic military expansionist play. But they're also getting tech from Vernius, from Atreides, so they're not too concerned. Vernius pretty deep in the red and the green and in all the good stuff of the yellow tree, about what you'd expect from folks. especially at this point in time. 6 months in is a pretty mature game state here. Ecaz have annexed this region and jumped over Corrino and annexed this region. And what can Corrino do about it? Not a whole lot at the moment. And now we see the danger of getting spread too thin by your forward base drop. It's really, really difficult to take care of to attack the Corrino's forward base when the Corrino army is there. But the Corrino army needing to be there means all the other Corrino territory becomes much more vulnerable. Very interesting. We do have a non-aggression pact between the Ecaz and Corrino. That's why the Ecaz are able to march through here with such impunity. We also still have a small Corrino army. They're working to rebuild it. Just about back up to 58 once this next round of troops gets done. We've got an Atreides army rebuilt up there. Vernius still looking good, but no longer attempting the poking siege because we have a couple of proper artillery drones here to disincentivize that. Ecaz marching through the territory of their friends. Just keeping an eye on these villages for them thoughtfully. Very cheeky play. Ecaz holding 2 regions in their backfield. One of them a spice region. They just really want to keep it as a sanctuary, but they're not getting any spice from it. I wonder how they're doing economically. They're broke. They're broke. They're not making a whole lot. Vernius looking very strong economically. Big banks of authority on the Atreides and Vernius. And Vernius is now cooking hedge. 38 a day is quite a bit. So Minxie has turned on the craft workshops. No need to obfuscate them if you're making the most out of them. And not quite the most, but just one behind the Ecaz, so they'll be perfectly happy with that. I gotta say, Beachcat looking in a pretty rough position here. He has done his absolute best to turn these lemons into lemonade, but doing so has just put such a target on him. We see the Atreides coming in. We see Vernius waiting, licking their lips. Looks like the Corrino army's moving to engage. I feel like they could clean this up too. I think they could win this fight. This looks like a smaller Atreides army. Yeah, there's still some units being trained for the Atreides, so it's not a full stack, but it's enough to buy time for them. Vernius comes in, but Vernius is getting chased off. Boom, and we see them teleport out. They do draw the orbital strike on top of the Imperial base. That's enough to get Vernius out. Duncan going berserk in here. They don't seem... I feel like maybe Beachcat doesn't quite see that, or is just not interested in attacking him, but you should just try and burn Duncan down, I think. Even though it's hard to do so with lower power units because of his insane armor. You got to do something about him. You can't just let him cleave through your conscripts like this. Vernius is back. They've come back in from the south, but they're looking pretty beleaguered. The orbital strike, the original orbital strike, is still continuing. It manages to chop up the poor Vernius forces a fair bit. Duncan still going bonkers here, cutting up conscripts wherever he can. He is really a monster these days. He's just been tanking like nuts. 2100 HP, 16 armor. He's just berserk. Vernius coming back in, but honestly, the Corrino army still looking pretty staunch. They're holding the line quite well here. They're taking losses. They're down to a lot of conscripts, but they're still doing okay. This artillery, one of the artillery drones are down, but one more is still alive in order that can really punish this force. And honestly, the Atreides are getting cleaned up. The front line, Duncan at Idaho, finally goes down. The front line of Atreides falls, and the heavy weapons and the Rangers have to retreat in the face of a mass of conscripts running them down in the desert here. Corrino holds the line. And they don't really need to. I mean, well, they need to be for themselves, but I was like, the lobby doesn't need to be picking on Corrino. Corrino is not doing great by any stretch of the imagination when it comes to win conditions, right? Corrino's sitting at 17k, making no daily hegemony. No daily. It looks like he changed his mind and he canceled the Emperor's Monument out of his red base and is putting it back into his blue base. So he wants his votes back and not his military strength. That's an interesting choice. Maybe he feels like his only option is more of a political play here. Another pause as players deal with something somewhere. These folks are all in a Discord call together, I believe, so we're not seeing a lot going on in the chat. They're simply saying it out loud to one another. House Atreides at 20.3k, 20.2 on the Ecaz, and we do have a wiped Atreides army and a very full Ecaz army. What are the Ecaz going to do with it? Do they want to pile on to Corrino? There is some choice territory to pick up if Corrino were to be in big trouble. Now what you could do is you could have Vernius and Atreides cause more trouble over here around this base, though it hasn't been going well for them lately. And meanwhile, the Ecaz army could go on to the original main base, the original starting base for Corrino. And then Corrino would be very hard-pressed to do anything about that other than lose one base or the other. I don't know, what's our... those orbital bombardments have been paying dividends, and he is making a fat plus 25 intel a day. You need 500 to prep an orbital bombardment, but 25 a day is a vast quantity. So he's going to get some more orbital bombardments up, and those are real levelers of the playing field when it comes to defending your territory, especially around a main base. We do see Atreides sending private messages to Vernius. Mighty Kenry and Minxie scheming how to deal with this Corrino. But again, poor Corrino, needed to grab this territory just to be relevant. But having an Imperial base to blow up is just too juicy a target, it seems, for the lobby. Chome Market. Nobody's bought in some time, so it's starting to drop. Still 16% on Vernius, 10%. Nobody's purchased at all. Corrino did defend themselves in the east here, and they're adding on to the defenses. Military base here. The Vernius army flies east, but the Corrino army shadows them and also flies east to hold the line. Ecaz just sitting there, fat and happy. Ecaz currently making the most daily hedge. Nope. Vernius making plus 50. How are they getting all that? Moondew Vale here. One special, two special, three special, four special. Four specials are good, but that's not 50. How are they making so much? Am I missing another special somewhere? 2, 3. Is there something that just has a really good bonus? Vernius saw Corrino get caught up with a Renegade base over here. Quickly jumped into their shuttles, flew back west, and are going back on the Imperial base again. I think this is again the problem with having such an aggressively placed base is there's really nothing for Vernius to do but poke and prod at this until they eventually get it. Or die trying. Controlled markets could mess up someone's spice income. No one's making a lot off of spice except for Vernius right now. Judge of the Council is online, currently held by the Atreides, and they will keep holding it. And House Ecaz gets themselves 2 free assassins. Controlled markets does not pass, so nobody gets some spice stink on him. We've got a dive on the Imperial base with a very heavy railgun drone force, so they are putting some fast DPS on it. Corrino backs out of the Renegade base, hops in the shuttles, flies west. Ooh, it's a lot of damage. Already down to 40% or so. Vernius just uses their folder relay mothership to teleport back to safety. Corrino's got nothing to show for it except like a loss of 10k or so health off their base. Ecaz army sitting in the east. It's a 30k is their base health. They're down to 13 over here, so they lost about 17,000 health there. And then there's a big old Ecaz army thinking, I could just walk over and kill that Imperial base too. Poor Beach Cat is in a rough spot. Atreides playing all sides here. What happened over here? Did this get abandoned? No, this got freed. This village has been liberated. Did the local siege come and liberate this village from the Atreides? No, that siege is friendly. I don't know what happened there. Somehow that got liberated. Corrino, I don't know if he's just looking for a way to spend his authority or what. Vernius is flying right on top of him. Nope, nope, way to the east. Oh, just buzzed him right over his head. Ecaz coming in to clean up the Renegade base. Still maintaining their peace treaty. This is getting annexed. I'm guessing Beach Cat was just sitting on a lot of authority and wanted to spend it. Vernius now, however, jumps right on top of this. Are they going to clean up the airfield in time? They're trying to. They're not going to get it. The airfield holds, and they are pulling back before Corrino army flies back to get them. Corrino army, however, says, we're just going to attack your main base if you're going to be out of position. And they march on the S-Vault. Vernius army manages to get back to their own airfield, flies west. Atreides marching south. Ecaz annexing some neutral territory to the east. Vernius army gets in position, manages to defend their base. Atreides still coming. Corrino falls back to their own base to defend it. Ecaz just chilling. Atreides marching south. Vernius coming to attack the territory just recently annexed by Corrino, trying to annex it themselves. Corrino coming out to contest it because it looks like the Atreides are running out of water and need to beeline over to their own territory to refill their flasks. They can't quite make that long march into the Corrino territory. We did have one lowly railgun drone eventually win this fight over here. Nope. He's losing the fight to one lonely conscript. Duel of the ages here. Conscript warrior wins that battle. Will stop the liberation of that territory. This, however, is very safely going to be annexed by Vernius. It's going to be tough for Corrino to stop. Ecaz army flies back up north to a very central location. 23k hedge on Atreides and the Ecaz. Corrino's still sort of the punching bag here, though we do have Vernius is climbing up very quickly. Plus 50 a day is quite a bit. Minxie looking good, almost at 22k, just a little over, maybe like 1,500 behind the leaders. But if the worst comes to worst to Corrino, suddenly that would open up a lot of territory for Vernius, and they could explode really quickly here. 18% chom on Vernius. Nobody else looks like they're doing much with the chom. All the armies really just sort of sitting static for now. Nope. We still see some guerrilla skirmishes as various drones and forces head to the east to try to take this territory off of Corrino. Corrino sent some troops, but not enough. Vernius sent more troops. Is Corrino able to reply to that? Money starting to look real tight for Corrino here. They are making not a lot per day, and there's not a lot in the bank, and that actually comes into play because it does cost money to shuttle. Ecaz army flies over here. What's going on with the Ecaz? They're looking... Are they... Yep. We've got Ecaz betrayal. Ecaz declares war on Corrino. Atreides march south. It's looking really bad for Corrino, my friends. Really, really bad for Beach Cat. I love his aggressive play, but we're seeing it come back to bite him. We did have a thumper up here, but it didn't manage to call in a worm to stop him. And we've got the full force of the Atreides army pressing in on a smaller force of Corrino army. Going okay. Now, Atreides don't have a flagship here to tank this main base. So the main base missile battery is reaping a bloody toll. Unfortunately, this artillery drone is not deployed. Otherwise, they'd really be wrecking them. But this one's doing work here. Corrino's looking pretty good. We have an unholy bunker of triplicate missile batteries adjacent to this base as well. Atreides getting cleaned up. Ecaz look like they came back west and are trying to grab the polar sink, but we're also getting a missile strike on that. Corrino doing a hell of a job holding the line here. Even the rebels, the renegades, coming in to attack Corrino here. Beach Cat cannot catch a break. But oh, Ecaz looks like they're in trouble. Actually, they are. Do they have a supply drop here? Okay, yes. They just did a supply drop, but they have suffered greatly. Look how beleaguered all of these pink Ecaz forces are. They have delved too greedily and too deep. They are very low on supply, but they did manage just to get the supply drop, so the supply will be okay. But everybody's at half or 1/3 or 2/3. This force is beaten. They've taken some shots along the way here. I don't know if it was just missile turrets or if they ran out of supplies for a little while and then got topped off after that. It must have been some supplies. Gear regs is up. Speaker of the Council is up. That's a big one. And sale incentive as well. Sale incentive can be real painful. At the start of the next council, lose 20 Solari per chome share. I gotta tell you, Corrino holding like a boss. Atreides' army is wiped. Now, they did lose their eastern spice field. This did eventually get liberated by Vernius. We do have Vernius starting to annex the polar sink, but we've got another day and a half of missiles dropping down on this war banner. Okay, we're back to combat. Ecaz are in big trouble here. They are way too beaten to take on what is still a relatively beaten and bruised Corrino force, but they'll be capable. Nope, they're pulling back because we've got Vernius once again laying siege to them. Just having a hard time with the micro amidst all this as well. We've got a lot of artillery drones out of position, getting picked on. We've got some hammers coming online to drop some bombs on folks. Hammers a relatively poor choice against this heavy ranged composition from Vernius, but otherwise hammers are a pretty cool unit. Damaged units suffer -2 armor, so they're a nice little debuff on them. Are these guys shooting? Okay, yeah, okay. We've got artillery drones blasting. Corrino really starting to feel the attrition now. We do have some units done. A new batch, two incinerators out. A new batch of conscripts coming online. He's trying to kite them back to these extra missile defenses, which can really do a lot. Vernius now starting to put some fire on the base, down to 11k, 10.5. I think Corrino will be able to hold it, especially because these missiles are still in range. He needs to get out of that range. Yep, okay, he's pulling back a little bit. Corrino did get another orbital strike up, which will clear that up. Is he going to be able to come back in time to fight off the Ecaz? I thought the Ecaz were dead to rights until we had some pretty rough losses there fighting Vernius. Not a ton to work with when Sissia, her 2 tigers, a flamer, a Cronus, an artillery drone. I don't know if I'd go in on that, my man. You need a little bit more in the way. This is a beleaguered Ecaz force. Okay, we got a load of conscript swordsmen. Not the most dangerous troops, but it's something to work with. And they are at least poking and prodding at the Ecaz, and the Ecaz are feeling, a couple assassins come out. Ecaz look like are falling back. They're feeling like maybe they don't quite want to contest this. It is just not much of an Ecaz forest. I think they lost way too much there from lack of supplies, and they are falling back to their own lines. Corrino holds firm. Meanwhile, the Atreides, behind the facade, have gone up north and are taking Sandfall, a special region from Ecaz. They're going for it. Vernius pushing in once again on the Imperial base, and this looks like a pretty strong Vernius push. This might be the end of the Imperial base, but the true villain in green lying in wait this whole time. Atreides up north, about to boom after taking that special region. Spice tax in 16 days. No problem for the Atreides to pay it. Corrino manages to chase off Vernius. Very cautious play from Vernius there. But the Imperial base down to 3.4k health. Its days are numbered, almost certain to die the next time Vernius sees an opportunity there. Will there be an opportunity, though? Ecaz annexing some of their own back territory, picking up their annexing their own sanctuaries. There's not really a chance for them to contest this Atreides army. They're fairly close, actually, in command points. It's not a super staunch army here. They're both at about 45 or 50 or so. Ecaz slightly ahead in the hedge, but it's gonna be a big flip once this cap takes place. This is a 1600 region, so it's gonna push the Atreides from 25.5 to 27. Then they are a 13-day spice tax from an extra 12, pushing them to what, 28.2? In that amount of time. They are cooking 35 daily, which is not too bad. They're going to be a tad short. I think they're going to have to fight off some trouble. Corrino and Vernius need to sign a truce here, and Vernius needs to head west to lay claim to the White Rift. That's a win-win for Vernius. They can come back and blow up this base anytime they want, but they need to do something about the Atreides, and one of the best things they could possibly do would be to pick on the White Rift here. This is making a lot. 18.4 hegemony per day for the Atreides, providing 1600 just because it is special. However, it is devastated, cannot be targeted by an attack. Either it got raided by the Renegades, or he allowed it to get raided by the Renegades, and now it can't be taken. All right, there goes the cap, pushing Atreides way up ahead. There is not anything extra special that Ecaz can do to grab. Atreides, of course, can peaceful annex stuff as well. What's their bank looking like? 214. They can't peaceful annex here. There's a Renegade base will block it. They can't annex down here. This was freed by something. There is this thing way over here. This is also has a just freed, cannot be targeted by an attack. There's not really anything on the map to peaceful annex. Vernius wants to trade with Corrino. Corrino declined a trade from Vernius. Maybe trying to get peace. Corrino wants to trade. Okay, Vernius and Corrino have agreed to non-aggression pact. And we do have Vernius marching west. The Kronos is flying towards the Vernius base. No, he's turning around. I was like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Corrino also needs Atreides and the Ecaz taking down a few pegs if they're going to have any success here. Ecaz would be looking for an opportunity to take a special and or win a big fight where they could farm some hegemony on their champions. Whitmore currently sitting on 7 trophies. I don't see another champion in this army currently. He would have to name one, and we're not sure if he's able to do that. If your champion dies, there's a certain... Vernius came over here to try to take this Renegade base, and the Atreides jumped on top of them from their forward airfield here, pushing them back. Ooh, it's gonna get real spicy real soon here, if it wasn't already spicy enough. We've got quite a bit of spice going down here. The agenda is being revealed. Architectural surveys. Don't tell me it's Corrino. They've got enough problems. Leave those poor boys alone. Speaker of the Council comes up again, currently held by Vernius. Diplomatic Congress is up. Not a lot of peace out in the world. Who would want the peace? I think Atreides would probably be pretty happy to be peaced with everybody. I imagine Corrino. Excuse me. I imagine Corrino would be pretty happy to be peaced with everybody at this point in time as well. Corrino currently at peace with the Atreides and with Vernius, just not with Ecaz. Atreides at war with everybody but Corrino. And Vernius at peace with everybody but the Atreides. I mean, Atreides are the big villain here. Spice tax in 5 days gonna put them perilously close to victory. Just the daily cook has been very beneficial for them. 27.5. A spice tax will pay them out plus 12. Who got peace here? All factions got weaker main bases. Ecaz took peace with everybody, and Vernius kept Speaker of the Council. Looks like Corrino tried to backstab the Atreides and flew to their base. The Atreides flew home. I don't know. Corrino could win this fight, actually. They don't need to run. I suppose there's some Landsred guards here, but that is, I think it's a weak Atreides army. Only 46 command points. I think Corrino could have done a little bit of work there, but they opted to fall back. Vernius sees the opportunity. They jump on the Imperial base. We do have an orbital strike here, but with the bonus of architectural surveys, this is death to that Corrino base. That's a huge loss to Corrino. That loses all of those district bonuses they were providing. You know, minus 20% health, minus 1 armor to all their units. It's a big military debuff. Ecaz still just chilling here. Are they going to make their move? We see the Atreides now investing heavily in Landsrad judges. They are the judge of the council. Might as well get the judges to defend the territory here. They're about to pay a spice tax and jump right up to 29k. Another annex going down. That's going to put them at 29.6. 29.5 or so. I don't think they've got any other peaceful annexes going down anywhere in the world. There's a Renegade base on that one. The only other unclaimed thing is this one, which cannot be annexed yet because it was freed, at least for one more day. Vernius coming in. Atreides flying north. Where Ecaz going? Ecaz coming down here, but that's a strange choice for them. They're going for a Renegade base and maybe to annex the Runbot, but they've got to see the green writing on the wall. Corrino not happy with Corrino going to fight the Ecaz, just causing trouble here. Vernius at least recognizing the threat and getting on it here. They are liberating, and they did manage to take out this airfield and liberating there as well. However, a very judgy force of Atreides marching down south. Judges and guards are very powerful within their own borders, plus 50% damage inside units' own borders. They put out a savage DPS from the judges, and the guards are devastatingly difficult to kill. 9 armor, 600 hit points, minus 15% damage received. Vernius going to be very hard pressed to defend this Atreides force, and the time keeps on slipping into the future here. 29.7 for the Atreides. They just need to hold long enough for their passive cook to win it. Vernius valiantly fighting, but I don't see how this comes out well for them. The Judge army on the Atreides territory is just too tough. We also have support intelligence down to make them even extra tankier for the Atreides army. Vernius getting cleaned up. Ecaz and Corrino skirmishing in the east. This is foolish to me. Why isn't Ecaz on top of Atreides territory right now? Vernius finally getting cleaned up here. Maybe? No? What's going on? Atreides falling back? I think they've won no matter what. I'm not entirely sure why they're falling back here. Are they afraid of the Ecaz up north? Vernius getting cleaned up here finally by the Atreides. They left their cap behind anyways. They could have been standing on it. I think you know, effectively a GG has been called. Mink's not even remaking units. Corrino is just sitting there pouting, which rightfully they should. I mean, there was no need for this base to be killed when the Atreides are about to win. This is actually being liberated by raiders, but the Ecaz army is out of position. It is Mighty Kenry on House Atreides with a hegemony victory. I think the lobby got way too tunnel visioned on wanting to punish the Corrino aggression, when the Corrino was really just grabbing some critical territory for himself. I would say it was definitely a mistake for Count Jacula's Ecaz. He's going to desperately try to farm a little bit of hegemony from Corrino in the final seconds. Can he kill 16 units? No. Definitely a mistake for the Ecaz not to turn on their Atreides neighbors quicker. Atreides had no compunction about stealing that special region from the Ecaz. Why didn't the Ecaz marshal their army and head straight back into the Atreides? I'm guessing he thought he might have been able to use his champions to farm some hedge, maybe by picking on a beleaguered Corrino before the Atreides could get there, but the math was not in their favor at all. Yeah, I think there was way too much hate caught by Corrino. People really like to punish those forward bases. Credit to Beachcat, he did a hell of a job defending himself there. He shouldn't have had to. He shouldn't have caught quite that much aggression. It really played into the Atreides' hands there. Vernius would have been much better served by, you know, signing a peace, an actual peace deal with Corrino that both sides honored, and then going, and if they had picked up the White Rift off of the Atreides, they would have been making an obscene amount of hedge per day and been right at the finish line themselves to win with hegemony. No need to pick on the Corrino at all. Corrino was not near any sort of win condition. You see, Corrino had 218 unit kills, reaped a bloody toll on everyone picking on him, but not quite enough. A lot of developments for the Atreides there. Some decent knowledge to work with. Economy-wise, not a ton. People peaked out at 720 daily for Vernius. The rest of the lobby was really quite poor, basically always. We had some big stocks of money on Corrino and on Vernius at various times. People did try to buy up shares, though they sold them off eventually. Finally, influence production was up and down, but nothing political there really made too much of a dent. We did see a lot of investment in intel. I was a little sad that Corrino chose to cancel their assassination on the Ecaz. That would have been fun to see that go through. But they were under a lot of pressure. They were having a hard enough time just keeping an eye on all the threats and micromanaging their units and things. They couldn't quite manage the assassination attempt at the same time. It's just a lot going on. Some wild swings up and down in the command points on the graph as armies get laid to waste constantly left and right. Look at this big one. This was the big defense where Atreides and Wait, I thought this was the big defense. Atreides and Ecaz both die almost entirely. Were they fighting each other here? I thought that was when they went in on Corrino. We did see a big drop in Corrino here, but it was enough to hold the line. I don't know. My favorite play there was Beach Cat on Corrino. I think everybody else, could have done a little better on the decision making, if you ask me. Credit to Kenry though, bided his time, sat on a really favorable starting position, and just let it cook. And then once it got to the point where he could really pounce on it, he took some critical territory from the Ecaz and managed to defend his borders from the Vernius. And the Vernius-Corrino blood feud paid extra dividends in kneecapping Corrino and hindering Vernius at the same time. And Ecaz got lost in the desert to the east as well. It happens to the best of us. Thanks for watching, folks. There is a Dune Spice Wars game for you. There'll be lots more to come. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you next time.